Good morning, happy Thursday morning. Welcome to the PT on Ice Daily Show presented by the Institute of Clinical Excellence. My name is Alan. I'm happy to be your host today here on Leadership Thursday. We talk all things practice management and ownership, small business leadership. It is Leadership Thursday, which also means it is Gut Check Thursday. This week's Gut Check comes from CrossFit.com, workout of the day, released a couple weeks ago. A much longer version was initially released. We've modified it a bit to be under a 20-minute workout. So we have 5 rounds for time, 1,000 meters or 800 meters on a bike for men and for women, into 15 hang dumbbell clean and jerk, single dumbbell. No specification on alternation there. You can do 5 per side, you could do 3 per side, you could do all 15 on one side, doesn't matter. Guys are going to carry a 50-pound dumbbell, ladies are going to carry a 35. The goal there is to keep those unbroken. And then we're going to move into 15 push-ups. Should take most folks maybe between 15 to 20 minutes. It was originally written as a mile bike for everybody and 30 clean and jerks and 30 push-ups per round. So that was originally written as like a 40 to 45-minute workout. So we basically cut the volume in half. So have fun with that one. That's a great one. You can modify that even further. 3 rounds for time. You can give that to a patient or a client in the clinic. A lot of nice different movements there. Some horizontal pressing, vertical pressing, some low back loading with the hinge. Obviously a lot of legs with the biking. Overall, really solid full body workout. Great for the garage or the basement as well. So have fun with Gut Check Thursday. Courses coming your way. The last of our online courses just started for this round. You can catch any of the ones beginning later in April or the beginning of May at ptnice.com. Some focus on live courses coming your way. The weekend of April 15th and 16th, Jordan Berry will be down in Richmond, Virginia for cervical spine management. Zach Long will be out in Kent, Washington for Fitness Athlete Live. And we'll have Older Adult Live in Aiken, South Carolina. And 2 chances at Total Spine Thrust Manipulation, either out in Corvallis, Oregon, or Alpharetta, Georgia. So 2 different chances that same weekend for Total Spine Thrust. The weekend of April 22nd and 23rd, we have Pregnancy and Postpartum Live in Oklahoma City. We have Lower Body Dry Needling in Scottsdale, Arizona. 2 chances at Older Adult Live, one in Rogers, Arkansas, and the other in Oviedo, Florida. And then, of course, the last weekend of April coming up very quick, about a month away, is the Ice Sampler. Sold out almost at the last sampler, and it will probably sell out again. Our plan this year, if you missed out on coming to the sampler, or you're already coming and you know you want to come next year, is that we're going to start listing tickets Sunday, April 30th at noon Eastern. So if you are wanting to come or you want to get your tickets early for next year, you already know you're going to make it. So set a calendar reminder or something. We sold 90% of our tickets at the sampler last year for this year's sampler, and the last little bit sold over the next couple days. So it's definitely an event that will for sure be sold out within a week. So make sure you're checking your computer Sunday, April 30th at about noon to get those tickets. And in those online courses coming your way, we have Pregnancy and Postpartum, online starting again May 1st, and Older Adult Advanced Concepts starting May 4th. Tons of courses coming your way all summer into the fall. Check us out, ptonice.com. We also have a lot of free resources on there as well, on the Resources tab and on the Blog tab. So check all that out. Today, we're continuing part 4 of our new leader series. So if this is your first entryway, go back about every other week. We've had a previous episode, catch up on episodes 1 through 3, and then come back to this one, because it's kind of been a building process from the theoretical and now last week into this week into the practical. This week we're talking about logistics. I love this quote. It's the name of the episode today. Amateurs talk tactics, professionals study logistics. This is a quote from General Omar Bradley. He was a general in World War II. He has a Bradley fighting vehicle named after him now, a very well-known, very respected general, responsible for maintaining the supply chains that kept the war effort in World War II alive in both Europe and the Pacific. So definitely a gentleman that thoroughly understands and values the importance of logistics and keeping what you already have established going rather than always chasing that new idea, that new thing, that new tactic, that new piece of equipment in the clinic, that new thing that we're always chasing, that we're convinced this is the one thing that's going to help us make it, rather than focus on supplying and maintaining what we have already. So let's talk about logistics from a couple different standpoints. The first is to reveal my bias to nobody. If you know anything about me, is that I'm very a logistical-minded person. I believe this is very important. I learned a lot of logistical lessons being in the military myself, and have carried those forward into pretty much every job I've ever had since then, and certainly now my main role here at ICE is from a logistics mindset of I see my role here mainly not to say no to new ideas, but to provide insights when a new idea is presented about what that might cost, about the time commitment, what the time cost might be to implement that new idea. And guide Jeff as the CEO here, but also our faculty when they come forward with those ideas of just giving them a better idea and some details of what it might look like to incorporate the brand new idea they have, the brand new piece of technology they're looking to adapt, that sort of thing, to help them make a more informed decision. I love reading about logistics, especially as it relates to military history. Fun fact about me, I was almost a secondary education, a high school military history teacher. I went to school originally for that and decided that I liked history a lot more than other people's high school age children and switched my major. But between switching my major and finishing school, I spent about a decade in the military. And I love utilizing my experience from the military, but also reading about others' experience in the military, specifically as it relates to logistics, and just how important it is time and time again that the small things really do matter, and we often overlook how important it is. We're not keeping people alive with food and bullets in physical therapy, but it is important that we have toilet paper in our bathrooms, and that we have fresh towels and linen, and that all of the folks who work in our clinic have everything they need from a supply chain management perspective to be successful. And then we often overlook those as really small, insignificant, unsexy things, when really they can be some of the biggest things, some of the biggest drivers of success of our business. I think a lot, in developing this specific podcast, I think of Operation Barbarossa. If you don't know what this was the code name for the German invasion of Russia in World War II. It was an amazing tactical plan. It was a grand tactical plan. It involved opening up a brand new front that was massive. It was 2,000 miles wide and 1,200 miles deep, of basically advancing from Poland all the way across all of the inhabitable parts of Russia, from the tip of Finland all the way down to Ukraine in the south, of literally all of Eastern Europe, all of Western and Central and Eastern Russia, and capturing all of it as quickly as possible. Massive tactical plan. A lot of strategy went into it, a lot of planning and battle planning went into it, and it was very successful. If you know anything about military history, the Germans basically conquered all of the inhabitable parts of Russia in about 3 months. From September to December 1941, they successfully executed that plan. The tactic was very successful. What you all probably also know about World War II is that the Germans lost, mainly because they invaded Russia. Why is that? They did not plan for logistics. They did not understand the amount of food, the amount of winter clothing that they would need to maintain that front. And over the course of the winter, the Russians understood that and basically outsupplied them. And that's began the pushback and the eventual downfall of the Germans in World War II. And I read things like that time and time again and try to relate them to business ownership and management and practice management and leadership of how the smallest things can really be our undoing if we're not careful, of how important it is that people have everything they need to be successful and that they're not wanting for something, and how often that goes wrong in physical therapy, of how often we hear that people have been asking for 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years for a barbell, or for a rower, or for a bike, or for what is really a simple ask, usually a cheap ask, all things considered, that has a big impact on practice, but also has a big impact on making people feel valued and wanting to stick around. What we know about the Germans in World War II is that when they reached a certain point of being cold and hungry enough, they just surrendered. They literally surrendered in the numbers of hundreds of thousands and millions. The German army basically collapsed once people got cold and hungry enough. And that is not as extreme as what's happening to us in practice, but it's along the same mindset of people will eventually get tired of asking for the basic things they need and move on. So if you're always asking yourself, why can't I keep somebody around? Why is my attrition so high at my clinic? That could be part of the problem. And I think in my own practice here at Health HQ and also at ICE, of wanting to see it done right, because I've seen it done wrong a lot, of going to organizations who hold events that are not ICE related, and just seeing that the most basic things are not done well, that there is literally not enough food for people, that there's not enough water for people. And again, how does that relate to practice? Well, do you have water in your water cooler for people in the lobby? Do you have enough toilet paper in the bathroom? These are the things that we overlook. They're not sexy. They're not cool. We're chasing the class 4 laser. We're talking about blood flow restriction stuff, and we're not really thinking about doing the basics extraordinarily well, right? And at the end of the day, it's not very rewarding either, which is a hard pill to swallow. Nobody has ever walked up to me and said, thanks for having water in the lobby. Like, this doesn't happen, right? It's one of those expected things. It's expected that you're going to have water for people. It's expected that your heat is going to work, that your power is going to work when they come to your business, whether they're coming as a customer or as an employee. It's one of those things that's kind of just thankless, but is very important, and it's noticed when it's not done well. And that brings me to my second point of it really comes to a matter of asking and starting to plan more long-term and future thinking of, is what I'm doing right now sustainable? And oftentimes when folks ask about how to get more patients or how to make more money or how to increase their profitability, what they're really saying is what I'm doing right now is not sustainable. And it's often not sustainable for logistical reasons. That grand plans are awesome, but if you can't logistically support them, it doesn't really matter how grand they are at all, because they won't be around for the long term anyways. We often have questions of, what do you all think about packages? I'm thinking about having a bronze, silver, and gold package at my clinic. At different levels, you get different access to physical therapy or recovery visits or assessments or text check-ins or whatever. And my answer is usually pretty much always the same, of what does your system or plan look like to implement that? And the answer back is almost universally, I haven't thought that far, right? I haven't thought future thinking enough of, I have this great idea and I think it's going to be what sets my clinic apart or what really helps my clinic turn the page, with no thought to what it actually looks like to implementation. That if we really start to be more future thinking, more logistically minded, or we find somebody who is to work for us, we start to recognize, wow, that's actually going to take a lot of manpower to create some sort of system where people can sign up for different packages, where we track how much of that package they have used or not used to make sure they don't use more than they're allowed based on their level, and track the payments and everything else that goes into that. When we really step back and look at some of these ideas that we have, we recognize that they create a big logistical burden, and that logistical burden may be too much for us to sustain, which means two things. We can't do it, or we stop doing it, or what usually happens, we still implement it, we just do it very poorly. And everybody is aware of how poorly it's implemented, because again, these are things that go thankless when they're run well, but folks immediately notice when they go wrong, right? Think of any event you've ever been to where food was provided and they ran out of food, right? When you had an event where food was provided, do you really remember anything about the food you ate? Of the quality of the amount you had? No, because you in the moment felt like you got your fair share. you really only have a memory of the time where you went somewhere and there wasn't enough food or whatever available. And those are the things that stick out in people's minds. And those are kind of what happens when we take grand plans that we can't logistically support and implement them anyways. I love the quote by Sun Tzu, victorious winners win first and then they go to war. A lot of planning on the front end can save a lot of time, money, and headache on the back end of, again, encouraging you all who are thinking about starting your business or just beginning of being a little bit more future thinking than beyond the patient at 12 o'clock, than beyond the current day, beyond the current week, of what does this idea that I have now look like in 1 month, in 3 months, in 6 months, in a year. We talked a couple weeks ago about fixed costs. Logistics are really the time cost concept of a fixed cost. Of you can overcommit yourself logistically in a way that you're doing becomes unsustainable, that either costs you too much money or too much time in a way that you can't maintain. And becoming more logistical minded can really help you get ahead of that. And this really comes to my last point of when we're thinking about becoming a leader of our own clinic. And I'm not just talking about being the clinic director that yells at people about units, of actually being in charge of the clinic, of the hiring and the firing, in the different ways you want to have workshops in the community, and the different way that you attract patients and do outreach and everything related to your clinic. We have to switch a mindset of clinician focused to owner focused, that we need to start thinking about the bigger picture and the longer term. So many of us get caught in still being clinician focused, of worrying about what manipulation techniques our employees are using, or what e-stim parameters they're using with their dry needling, or what tempo got used on a goblet squat with a certain patient. Those are great questions to ask in the moment of yourself with a patient, and being a clinician focus, but only in that moment. When you start to run your own clinic, run your own business, you need to start being owner focused, which means you have to let those thoughts go away, especially when you're thinking about those thoughts for somebody else's patients. You have to trust the folks in front of you that they're doing the right thing. That's why you hired them. And you need to start thinking about owner-focused topics of being future thinking, of being long-term, of starting to ask right now, do my clinicians have all of the supplies they need to be successful today, this week, this month? Do they have all the equipment they need to be successful and that they've asked for? Or are there still things on the to-buy list that we have kicked the can down the road on or not even addressed? Do they have high-low tables, or am I still making them use portable massage tables or athletic training tables? Do they have everything they need to be successful? Do they know things like, hey, it's going to snow on Friday. It's going to snow 18 inches on Friday. You all should check your schedules and call your patients, because what's going to happen if you just ignore this is likely most of them are going to cancel, and you're going to come here and sit all day for no reason. So can we look at your schedule and see when the snow is supposed to start and move your schedule around so we can see as many patients as possible as is safe for you and your patients, without wasting your time or trying to have them come here dangerously in really bad weather. And those are the kinds of things that we really need to start thinking about when we switch our hat from clinician focus to owner focus, of starting to get a little bit more concentrated on logistics and a little bit less concentrated on the nitty-gritty of individual patient care, especially when they are not our patients, they are somebody else's patients. So logistics, they're not sexy, they're very thankless and unrewarding, but they do matter. And they matter in ways that you may not think, that people are always aware of these sort of things. It's on their mind of the time when a place ran out of food and didn't have enough food for them. When they went to use the bathroom and there was no toilet paper, that there was no water in the water cooler. All those instances that are relatively easy fixes, as long as we start to have the mindset that we need to be owner-focused, we need to be thinking about the bigger picture, and then we need to be looking longer term down the road of whatever idea I'm going to implement or whatever I'm already currently doing in my clinic, in my practice. What does that look like sustainability-wise down the road? 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, 3 years from now? What does it look like? If this system expands to be so burdensome that it takes multiple people to operate it, it's probably not the best, especially if it's also going to come with an accompanying cost increase. So starting to think about those day-to-day things, and it might cause you to check yourself a little bit on the ideas that you have, which isn't a bad thing, right? We don't want to snuff out every idea, but we need to be mindful of every idea that we have needs to have a system and logistics that support it and have an understanding of what that time and cost commitment looks like. So I love this stuff. Obviously, if you know me at all, you know I'm a giant nerd about things like this. So I'm happy to talk about this anytime, any questions anybody has, any discussion about it as well. I hope you all have a fantastic Thursday. If you're doing age group quarterfinals for CrossFit, good luck. If you're going to be at an ICE course this weekend, have a fantastic experience. And we'll see you all next time. Have a great Thursday. Have a great weekend. Bye, everybody.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to the PT on Ice Daily Show. If you enjoyed this content, head on over to iTunes and leave us a review. And be sure to check us out on Facebook and Instagram at the Institute of Clinical Excellence. If you're interested in getting plugged into more ICE content on a weekly basis while earning CEUs from home, check out our virtual ICE online mentorship program at ptonice.com. While you're there, sign up for our Hump Day Hustling newsletter for a free email every Wednesday morning with our top 5 research articles and social media posts that we think are worth reading. Head over to ptonice.com and scroll to the bottom of the page to sign up.